Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. By the time we get to Nehemiah chapter 8, things are beginning to get on the right track for the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They have already been able to rebuild the temple. The wall has been finished. And now as we get into chapter 8, they're getting back into God's law. And we'll even see them observe the Feast of Booths once again, which hadn't been done since the days of Joshua. And so people are getting back on track once again, especially as they're getting back into God's law. And Ezra is reading from the law. The Levites are explaining the law to them so that they can understand what's being read. And although initially the people want to mourn, and most likely mourn over the fact that they had gotten so far off track, they're encouraged not to weep. It says, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." It says, "For all the people were weeping when they heard the words of the law." And then he goes on to say in verse 10, "Do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." And that seems to be a turn in the chapter to where the people then go from mourning to joy and rejoicing and celebration. And they're rejoicing in the fact that now they can understand God's law. They're rejoicing in the fact that they've gotten back on track as far as the feast goes, especially in connection to the Feast of Booths. And there's great celebration and joy and worship going on here in this section of Nehemiah. And what this shows us is that getting back on track in our spiritual life is a very joyous occasion. Yes, it might cause a little bit of sorrow as we think about maybe the days, the weeks, the months when we've gotten off track and we've kind of just gone after the world, or we just gotten foggy spiritually. But getting back on track, making an effort to start seeking the Lord again, going back to his word once again, getting back into the flow and the rhythm of the spiritual life is a very joyous occasion. And it is something that should cause celebration in our hearts and rejoicing to say, you know what, we drifted from the Lord, but now we're returning back to the Lord to take in the great blessing of his presence, the blessing of a relationship with him, and being able to get back to the things that were really our foundation in our life previously. And that's a very joyous thing. And what that ought to do is cause us to be motivated to all the more get back on track in the spiritual life and even go further perhaps than we have before. And so as we read Nehemiah chapter 8 and we see the exiles that had returned back to Jerusalem now getting back on track with their worship, with the temple now built, the wall now finished, and now they're getting back into God's word and they're keeping the feast and all the joy that happens, we should be motivated to say, I'm ready to get back on track too. I too am ready to get back into God's word, to read it, to understand it, but also to put it into practice, to begin seeking the Lord once again, worshiping the Lord, being dedicated to God once again. And we'll find that even though we might lament the fact that we've been off track before, we'll be very joyful. And in lieu of the fact that now we're coming back into a relationship with the God that we had left. And that's a wonderful blessing. So hopefully we'll all be motivated, if we've gotten off track, to get back on track again spiritually and to keep moving forward in the spiritual life so that we can enjoy the joy that comes from that and all the other benefits that come along with it as well. So these are some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.